Hello and welcome to the Matchbook Betting Exchange, Boyle Sports Irish Greyhound Derby podcast. We are discussing the last 11 in the Boyle Sports Irish Greyhound Derby. Sadly, I say 11 because this morning we lost Vincenzo. He picked up a small shoulder injury. He will race again very shortly, but sadly will not be able to take his place in the Boyle Sports Irish Greyhound Derby. Before we get into the serious stuff, must welcome Dylan Brennan, the Lily White Assassin, and the Master, Paul Lawrence, also joining me here this morning. Plenty to hear from them in the coming half an hour or so. But before we do, let's remind you of that sign-up offer. If you sign up with Matchbook Betting Exchange, you get a £30 free bet offer. If your first bet is a loser, you get up to £30 back as a free bet. And of course, the bonus code once again is Insights30, all caps, Insights30. Again, £30 welcome offer back as a free bet if your first bet is a loser. You can't say fairer than that. And now it's time to say a big hello to Dylan and to Paul. I'll start with you, Paul. Paul, it's been a tremendous derby thus far. Of course, we had the disappointing news this morning that Vincenzo was out, but it still remains a competition of, well, very, very many possibilities. It's been thrown wide open by a draw that we'll get to a little bit later on, but it really has delivered this competition.
It has, and we had a few big names go out, and we've still got some of the dogs that are at the top of the market still there. Ian, it's very difficult, and if we're going to obviously review what happened, but Vincenzo, I had said that I thought he had a difficult task in his quarterfinals, and I think then he did what I thought he would do, and he qualified, and he ended up with a really good makeup in the semi-final. So it's really sad for Pat Guilford and the connections of Vincenzo, because he looked like he had a really big chance to make it through to the final. So commiserations to them.
Yeah, I was going to be offering my commiserations to Callaway Masters and their connections, because they were short-headed by Vincenzo last week. But in the news that Vincenzo's out, like in both cases, at least Callaway Masters, both Dennis Murphy and Owen McKenna have another runner in Callaway Pro-Am, remains a really lively Derby challenger. And of course, Peter and Cheryl Sutcliffe and Pat Guilfoyle still have a certain explosive boy, the Dog of the Year, a finalist last year. He's, funnily enough, as big a price for his semi-final as he was at the start of last year's Derby. He was the shortest price Derby favourite going into it in a long, long time at 6-1, and he's around that price, and perhaps even bigger on the night, I would suggest, on the exchange for his semi-final. Dylan, again, Coulivanny Hoffa remains favourite, but it's still one of those derbies where nothing can be taken for granted.
Yeah, he's a short price now, and looking at his semi-final makeup, you wouldn't say by any means he's certain to even get to the final. So, but no, look, it's still a cracking derby, and like I said, obviously it's a big disappointment to see Vincenzo out. It's at any stage of the derby, but to get this far, and like PL said, looking at his makeup for the semi-final, he looked almost certain to at least make the final. So commiserations to them, but he'll be back hopefully soon enough, and it still remains a cracking derby.
Yeah, it sure does. For the four quarter-final winners, Ballymacfin, of course, won Mary's Wedding, Callaway Pro-Am, and, of course, a certain Coulivanny Hoffa PL. Hoffa was the standout with that stunning 29-24 run. But all in all, each of the four winners probably deserved their success. There was nothing lucky about the four. Hoffa is the one to take out of it.
Yeah, I mean, when we discussed his chances last week, and we were sort of contemplating about the 1680, and I said, well, I don't even think he'll do that. And you said he'll do a 17 dead standing on his head, and he did a 1688. So, he's just backed up that he's an absolute aeroplane, basically. He's an aeroplane. There's no dangers of it. I tip my hat to you again. You spotted him from a long way off, but Michael's got him rocking and rolling, and he really looks to be showing really nice, decent early pace, good back straight pace to die for as well. And he's seeing the trip out well enough, it has to be said. He's a really exciting dog. But as Dylan just mentioned, it's not an ideal semi-final for him by any means. But I still feel that he's probably got about a length in hand. Sometimes a length in hand isn't always good enough. So it's that length and a quarter. But I think all things being equal, he'll have a big chance. If he minds himself, I'm sure he'll get to the final. Let alone, I think he'll win the semi.
Anything you want to mention from the quarterfinals, the Cotchera in particular, or will we leave it in our sort of semi-final look ahead?
Yeah, probably so. I mean, it was just Marie's wedding was one that really took my eye, and I think she ran really, really well. And I think Keely's got her going forward again at the right time, so they'll be hopeful as well. So it's it's a great competition.
Yeah, it really is boiling to the surface. Dylan, what was was Coulivanny Hoffa the star for you? Was there anything else you want to mention?
Yeah, look, like you said, to the eye and the sectionals back it up. He was just he's something else, you know. When he puts it all, when he comes away like that, he's unbelievable. I think when you take it that only 3 dogs have dipped under 17 seconds. He's obviously been one of them, Born Warrior and Good Cody earlier in the rounds, but he's actually dipped under doing 1680 and 1688, which is crazy. But yeah, he was obviously the standout. And look, we'll probably touch on the rest of them and looking ahead to the semi-finals. But just like you said, the near misses there, Callaway Masters and Bullet from a Gun. Just a word on them going out there, you know, desperately unlucky. And but you know, especially Bullet from a Gun, he's given the lads some sport over the last few weeks, and I'm sure we might see him out Derby final night maybe.
I think he's out on Saturday night, actually.
Oh, is he out?
Yeah, we'll see him on the undercard. Of course, this week's undercard, all the action once again on Racing Post Greyhound Television. You can, of course, watch it streamed live on Matchbook, and it's also on terrestrial TV in Ireland. There'll be 2 or 3 live races on Virgin Media too. Yours truly will be the man behind the microphone up in the commentary box. Let's take a look at the antipode prices after that quarterfinal reaction, of course. Coulivanny Pro-Am, as you'd imagine, or Coulivanny Hoffa, should I say? Coulivanny Pro-Am. That'd be some combination. Callaway Hoffa is obviously favoured. 3.2 is bigger than you can get with the fixed odd firms already. 6.2 Finn. That is probably after getting a few nibbles today, given the fact that he's now sort of one less to beat in his semi-final. Perhaps, like, dare I say it, and you really don't want to put the mockers on him, but he looks absolutely certain to be in the final if he gets his trapping right. Callaway Pro-Am 7.8. That's, you know, purely he would have been second favourite, I'd imagine, but for the draw in the semi-finals. Born Warrior at 11. If he negotiates the semi-final, that's a massive price. Crafty Kokoro 12.5. I don't think you'll get too much of that with the fixed odd firms. Mary's Wedding at 12, Explosive Boy 14.5, and there you see Droopy's Nice One, Crypto Punk, and the rest. Of the anti-post prices, I think there's still a bit of value there. Like, obviously, Dylan and Paul, you're taking a chance that something gets through that red hot semi-final, because, you know, there are probably more dogs in that semi-final that can win the Derby, but their chances could be completely scuppered by the fact that they're in such a red hot contest. PL, anything at the prices there that just catches your eye?
Not particularly, no. Other than probably I should have been on Crafty Kokoro, so I might have to have a little bit on her just to soften the blow. But I'm happy with Hoffa. I'm happy. Can
I start blowing a trumpet once again? Can I?
Yeah, you can. Yeah. And again, she was on the list, and she didn't quite make the cut for me. So the trumpets can come out from the fortune end. Yes.
I'm not going to trumpet too early because he is in a red hot contest, as you know. Yeah. But it just seems to be falling into her favour. You know, she's in a heat where they're all early pacers. You know, obviously Explosive Boy is a much stronger greyhound this year than he was last, but they can't all lead around that corner. You'd imagine she'll pick up the pieces. And if you were to pick one that's the most likely qualifier from that heat, it may well be Crafty Kokoro. And that 12.5, given the fact that they're, you know, even Vincenzo coming out in the other heat, he was one of the really strong running greyhounds that could potentially have held her in a driving finish. There's not too many that can hold her now. You know, I just feel that there's a lot falling in her favour. Dylan, what way do you see it? Is there anything else that caught the eye in terms of the prices?
No, I'm a bit like PL. I was only saying it to one of the lads during the week because he backed her, I think, 2 weeks ago or that, and I texted him the other night and I said, I think I might have to go in on Crafty because the more I think about it, the more I see her in the final, and I'm even having glimpses of her winning it. So I'm kind of like, maybe just to soften the blow a little bit, especially now that Vincenzo comes out. I'm still not the better of that news. I can't imagine how connections are feeling, but yeah, maybe. Look, the only problem I have going in, or I have Pro Am and Hoffa. So then I'm hoping, I'm looking for the TriCast to get them all through to the final. Then if I go in on Crafty, but I'll think about it. But I do think I'll probably have a small play to soften the blow.
Yeah, softening the blow is the key. I'm glad to say 66-1 was nibbled at, and I'm not blowing my. But
you are, yeah.
I am. We did state last week, Paul, that everything was coming up rosy for her. We did see a scenario where there could be 4 or 5 early pace greyhounds in the final and her able to pick her spot in behind. And that seems to be sort of falling into place. Now, that said, if Kulavani Hoffa makes the final, and there's every chance that the final could be an easier contest than his semi-final, given the makeup of a semi-final, that he could end up starting at 4 to 5 or even money in the Derby final if everything goes to plan on Saturday night. And if he's doing 29-20 out front, I couldn't care less what Crafty Coro does. She's not picking him up. But if it does get competitive out front, she does represent a little bit of value at 12.5. And if she does make the final, I can't see her being anywhere near that price. And I think that's why I would sort of suggest the 12.5 about her is worth a nibble. Also, Ballymacfin, there's still a little bit of juice there at that 6.2. I think he's very likely favourite. I'm not sure what you think of that, PL.
In
or finalist, should I say, not favourite?
Yeah. To be a finalist, I mean, he's well odds on to win his semi. So, and he's got his draw as well, hasn't he? I mean, Skywalker Barry should give him a little bit of room. He's got a tendency to run off from red as it is, but he actually seems to run his best races from trap one, although he does edge off. Because again, if you talk about ideal boxes, I'll probably say 3 would be his ideal box, and yet he just seems to run a better race out of the red. Now, whether that's because he's taking the eye line of the dogs on his outside, I don't know, but I think you're right in that. Again, you'd imagine that Liam hasn't quite got to the bottom of him either, so there is a possibility he could improve a little bit further.
Yeah, the danger is we're actually reading too much into his victory last week. While he did win, he did everything right. There seemed to be a bit more negative talk about him last week than there had been in previous weeks. And it's Liam Dowling at the end of the lead. I'd be more focusing the fact that he has 29.32 and 29.36 in his card, and that he is drawn in red, where he has popped out of on both occasions he's been there before.
Yeah, and I was just going to actually say before you said that, he seemed to grind out. I mean, I don't think it was a negative. It was just that you probably didn't expect the two fellas to be behind him that were, but and so close to him once he'd led. But he ground it out, and I think that's the measure of the young dog as well, Ian, that he can do that. We spoke about Callaway Pro-Am as well, the way that he ground out in his earlier rounds. So that's what you want to see from a young dog, not him fold up and get chinned. He didn't get chinned; he ground it out, and that's the difference. So he's still learning, and you have to take that into consideration when you think this is quite a grueling competition as well. And the previous round, when you said it was quite dry, the track, where we thought it was quite heavy because of all the rain, you said it was quite dry.
Just fractionally on the dry side.
Yeah,
because obviously they had the covers on, and when you take the covers off, the last thing you want to do is
I'm just saying that the makeup of the ground for him as a dog to get through. Sometimes it just a couple of people said to me that they thought that Born a Warrior looked a bit of a tired dog. I think you're saying when he does that swinging off coming off the last. Maybe is that the end of his tether? He just seems to try and find a little bit more when he straightens up near the line, but maybe that might be his limit. So again, once you're getting through to a testing Derby competition, it might just find you out in the latter stages, just seeing the last few meters out.
Yeah, no question about it. Before we go on, anything else you just want to mention at bigger prices? Anything that just catches the eye, maybe worth a bit of value now with the 5 runners in the second semi-final? I am going to mention one, so it's up to yourselves.
No, I'm easy enough.
You'll be mentioning Droopy's nice one, I suppose, that she could improve.
Come on, PL. You know me too well. I just think there's a run in her, and I think that 30 is plenty big enough now in a contest where if she leads Gord Kelly Nestor in those first few strides, and it's very possible. With Ballymacfin edging to the middle, Skywalker Barry's not guaranteed a clear passage. Mary's Wedding still has to work herself into a position. I just think Droopy's nice one on the wide outside there. That's where she wants to be. I can just see her getting to a final, and just at 30, just for a small interest, a nibble, shall we say. you could do far worse. You could do far worse. I'll tell you what. Let's go straight in. Let's go into the semi-finals, lads, because the rest has basically been a taster. We're now talking about the semi-finals, and they really are the main course. That first heat PL, it would be deserving of any derby final in any country, any major competition. It's just an absolutely stunning race.
It is, and that's that sort of, you never quite said it. It could be the derby final, because I was going to say that's as bad as the P word, but yeah, you're right. It's a tough one. It's a real tough one. And as Dylan mentioned earlier on, even when you've got such a shortish price favourite in the shape of Cooler Van Hover, although I've sung his praises, he's still got to do it right on the night. He's still got to avoid Born Warrior going into that first turn. They've both got nice early. As I say, I think Hoffer's got best early, but you've still got to get that break. And I mentioned throughout these podcasts, he's tend to do it through brute early pace rather than bang. And I think he actually needs to be a bang on Saturday night just to make sure. So he can't be missing it half a beat. He needs to be getting his starting right to then show that early and get himself clear. And that's when you see the best out of him.
Yeah, Dylan, it's just an incredible contest.
Yeah, it's, the more I look at it, the more I don't know what to make of it. Like, it's just, you're going to say the same thing about the bottom three. They're all going to have to be, as soon as the lids rise, they're going to have to be sharp, because if one of them misses it by a half a length or that, you're in trouble. Like, you talk about Hoffa's instant acceleration when he traps. Like, Born Warrior was 3:34 last week, the Hoffa's 3:39. Like, it's just, they're going to have to do everything right. And then you've got Callaway Pro-Am in there as well, who's already, shown he's led up Bocco's Buds and Hoffa before. And like, there's a chance here that Hoffa goes around third. If he's not, like we say, he's going to have to be really, really sharp. And it's one of those, I remember one of the earlier rounds, I think, when you had Kildare and it could have been Born Warrior and 2 in a row or whatever, and we said, whichever of them turns third, you're going to be looking over your shoulder for the strong runners, and that's exactly what's going to be happening.
As it was 2 in a row, and Kildare went out that night.
Yeah.
In contest. I was predicting it would be Born Warrior, and again, I'll be predicting the same thing this week. But he's made a liar of me once. He could well do it again.
Yeah,
he has tremendous early poke. The 3:34 was a bit of an outlier. He's never broken 3:40 before. I would have always said he's a good starter, a relatively good starter, but it's all about brute early speed. Where I would have actually said that Coolavani Hoffa, on occasion, has been a better starter than him, but last week's evidence is there for all to see.
Yeah, but the thing is, I don't think he was always particularly that good away, Born Warrior. And I think it's only the last 3 rounds where he's really, really got his trapping right. I think before that was kind of, I'm not saying he just stepped out, but he was never, first to trap. There was always maybe 2 or 3 ahead of him, or 1 or 2 ahead of him. But now he's coming out in front. And like you say, he has that instant acceleration too. So that's, like before the Derby, I think he was only doing low 350s.
Yeah.
And then he brought it down to the low 340s. And now he's down to mid 330s,
mid to low 330s, yeah.
So it's one of those. It's we said it when Ed and Hoffa lined up. You just want to sit back and enjoy it, and but it's just like, I think when you look at the likes of CryptoPunk with 25s in it, it just tells you, like, he's very big at that. Like, he can smash out. Now, don't get me wrong, I'm not saying he has the early pace of the bottom 3, but given his draw, I don't know.
He only has to be 3 parts of length behind on the corner, which is feasible. Like, there is a chance of bumping on the outside. And Callaway Pro-Am's a big 80-pounder in 4, and like, he's the added complication for the bottom 2. Even if they conquer each other, they still have to conquer Callaway Pro-Am.
And this is the thing, and we're not even talking about, so far we haven't even mentioned him that much. And like, he's down beaten runner in it, and like I said, he's beaten Hoffa before. And just looking at him, I just think he's, even them tight finishes, we said, like, he looks like he loves the battle. And even looking back on his runs when he bet Buds and Hoffa before, it's almost like when he sees a dog out wide, there's that extra bit in him to just get there ahead of him. And he's going to be the very same. Like, if he's going to come out and see Born Warrior or Hoffa on his outside, he's just going to be itching to get to that bend in front of him. And like I said, I wouldn't like to be turning third in the heat because it's tough as it is. As tough as it is, and as tough as we're kind of, it looks on paper. I still think Crafty's a good thing to qualify. I just can't see how she's out of the 3. You know, I think this is her. This is just going to set up nicely for her, and you know, I think she qualifies. Fingers crossed, Hoffa and Pro-Am go through too. But I wouldn't discount Born Warrior at all if he keeps coming away like he has been.
PL, if I just dropped you in, into Shelbourne Park and told you this was a normal Saturday night, this is the makeup of the race, okay? You've got 2, who's a stronger greyhound than he was, probably doesn't have the early he used to have. 3, CryptoPunk is a good starter, but doesn't have the same class, perhaps, and early speed as the bottom 3. But the bottom 3 are all going to go up faster, potentially all go up fast. 5 and 6 are probably looking for each other's ground. 4 is the unbeaten runner, let's say, in the last few weeks. And then you have 1, Crafty Kokoro, the big finisher with an ideal draw on the fence. You're probably avoiding the early pace trio because you have to pick 1 of 3. Whereas for me, it's always going to be the Crafty Kokoro of this world because you know what she's going to do. Doesn't matter what way she starts or not. She's going to be looking for the ground in behind anyway.
And tell me, I think there's, when you look at this, I mean, you can analyze this inside out. Can Hoffa clear Born a Warrior, which I said, you know, and we all think it's not a given, but it's highly likely, but it's not a given. I think Pro-Am has got a little bit to think about in the fact that he has got to clear CryptoPunk. And we've all said, even out of 1, he's moving up, but even out of 3, he just kind of edges off 3.5, something like that. So he's going to be, he is going to be something for Pro-Am to think about. And then the other question is, if Explosive Boy leads Crafty Kokoro, which again you'd probably say is more likely than not, she's then got to negotiate a path past him, especially if she's trying to get past him at the 3rd turn. He will be on the fence. So that's not going to be easy for her. And he's relatively strong. I know she's a powerhouse, but he's not stopping. And he's going to have the rails. He's going to have the rails unless
But the latest evidence suggests like she did take him down the back straight last week, and having not led him into the 3rd bend, she leads at that point and beats him 4 lengths. You know, so that wasn't the real Explosive Boy last week. You know, he was backed into favoritism. Just never happened for him. He didn't start. No. He didn't go great down the back. He did stay on well to qualify, but the spark that we know of Explosive Boy wasn't there. The question is, where does she take him? You know, because she's not going to be in front of him. There's no question. If she leads him, I think the race is over, because if she leads him, she's doing a low 350s. And if she's doing a low 350s, she's getting a lovely run up the inside behind CryptoPunk, who stays middle, and the other 3 who stay middle, and she just gets to pick them off as she wants. But, you know, greyhound racing isn't quite as simple as that. Basically, we could talk about this contest until we're blue in the face, PL. Yeah. And as you've said before, in a matter of 1 stride, this race could be over. You know, a bad draw could be overcome. Like if Coolavani Hoffa clears Born Warrior and Callaway Pro-Am, if he has a half length on them after 10 strides on the winning line, let's say, he goes around in front as far as I'm concerned because of his brute early speed into the opening corner and down the back straight. If he doesn't lead them, all of a sudden it's wide open. And Dylan suggested that there at Callaway Pro-Am, there's a little bit of drive to this dog. You know, it's not just ability. There's a real attitude to it. I don't want to be passed. I want to be up there, and I'll use my frame and I'll throw everything at it. And that's what he did in the 3rd round. He dug in last week to win from Crafty Kokoro. 2 very separate victories and very different victories, despite the fact they were both by a head. And he virtually led throughout in both, or we were certainly battling throughout with Coolavani Hoffa. But yeah, he's going to really put it up to the outside duo if they don't clear him. If they do clear him, I don't think he'll be able to pick them up. I just don't think he quite has the pace to pick them up into the 3rd bend. And while Born Warrior will drift off the last, Coolavani Hoffa, if he's around in front, I can't see him leaving the door open for Callaway Pro-Am. So for me, if I'm looking for the likely winner, it's top or bottom. But it's still very much up in the air. To be truthful, it's probably just a watching brief for me.
Yeah. I mean, I think the latter rounds have been a lot like that. Yeah, go on, Dylan.
No, I agree. Just in terms of if you're looking at a bet, I certainly, like I said, not if you, when you, like Ian has, you're on Crafty and Hoffa, which we all know, but so it'll be Yeah, look, I think when you have an anti-post interest in a heat like this, it's just sit back and hope to qualify in some way.
I could be very sheepish next week if neither of these get through. I'll tell you that.
Well, look, we'll let you know about it. Don't worry about that. But I think you're safe enough. I think it definitely one of them is, at the very least, one of them's going through. Look, if you were looking for a bet, I personally, I think it'd be the top. But I'm just crossing everything that the Hoffa and Pro-Am go through, and you have a play in the final. But yeah, look, but like you say, you can analyse it as much as you want. At boxes, if Hoffa flies out and Born Warrior misses it, all your analysis might as well be ripped up and thrown out, because it'll be practically race over. Like you say, if he turns in front, he's not going to be picked up. So, but look, should we look forward to it anyway?
Yeah. One thing I would point out, that Born Warrior isn't around he's around 9-2, 5-1. And it's worth pointing out that he's been returned a bigger price the last 2 weeks than he was during the week, shall we say. Like, he was 8-15 in the third round, his return 10-11, and last week he was shorter he was about 5-4, I believe, if not shorter, and he's returned 7-4. So, maybe don't rush into him. The layers are looking to get him, and punters are willing to take him on as well. So, if you are backing Born Warrior on the night, it's strange to say 5-1 just does seem a very big price, but he could even be bigger on the night, which is a strange one. Callaway Pro, I'm in around the 3-1, 7-2 mark. Is that where we think he'll settle? PL, how short do you think Kulavani Hoffa will be on the night?
Yeah, I mean, that's a tough one. I think he'll be. I actually think he'll be fairly popular, because I don't think there's too many chinks in his armor, but it's whether. If you're saying that Born a Warrior is weak,
I'm just saying he has. I'm just saying he has been weak. Now he's done nothing wrong, but he's on two defeats in a row.
He's a bit of a one-trick pony in that respect. In this level now, he's got to lead to win.
Yes,
and he's got 4 on his inside and 6 on his outside. 2 real good dogs that are capable of probably going faster than him in a solo trial as well. So he has got things to go his way. But again, he's there as a little bit for something for Hoffa to think about. So in answer to your question, I think Hoffa will be tight, even money chance.
Okay.
So I think if the trap's open and he breaks, he leads and he wins.
Yeah. Give me your 3 qualifiers, gentlemen.
Go on, PL.
I've got to go Hoffa and Kokoro, I suppose. I don't know whether Explosive Boy can get into the race and Callaway Pro-Am can be held up by CryptoPunk. But I'd like to see Pro-Am, so I'm going to go the obvious ones. Hoffa, Pro-Am and Kokoro.
In that order?
Come on. Yeah, I'll do that. Yeah.
Okay. Dylan.
Yeah, I knew this was coming and I still don't have an answer for it. But
I didn't know it was coming.
Crafty Hoffa, as much as I will be absolutely hoping Pro-Am as well, I'm going to throw in CryptoPunk.
Wow. Okay. Well, he is a big price one. God, if you're intending that, maybe a small each way play. It's just these massive prices.
Graham Holland has it's his only runner left, and he's got a good record of getting these dogs to Derby finals. And look, I hope it's Pro-Am, but I just think I would worry Pro-Am with the fact that, like PL said, CryptoPunk will probably move off a little bit. He's going to have to do everything right, so I'll just throw it in there as a stab in the dark.
We're pointing out that both CryptoPunk and Callaway Pro-Am started their career with Liam Peacock. Both were Bugger Greyhounds. Both have had a change of name. Callaway Pro-Am running for Owen McKenna and Dennis Murphy, and CryptoPunk running for Graham Holland and Simon Taylor, who won the Derby a couple of years ago with New Win Taylor. Of course, Owen McKenna won the Derby last year with Susie Sapphire, who I heard this morning had a litter of pups. Oh no, I heard this morning she had a litter of pups at the weekend to a certain sire called Oh, what's his name? Droopy Sydney. That's right, Droopy Sydney. I'd say they might be worth a few quid. On to the second semi-final, gentlemen. Sadly, Vincenzo was a non-runner from Trap 4. In his absence, well, I'd assume Ballymacfin will be, well, pretty popular. He looked the most likely qualifier, perhaps of all the 12 prior to the semi-finals. He now looks an even more likely qualifier. If he traps on terms, he leads, and he certainly qualifies PL and most likely wins. He'll be short. He'll be a short price, no question about it. But it could get, a little bit heated in the closing stages if he repeats last week's form. He'll want to be repeating his 29.36 run to hold on, because there's some talented trackers here. You've already noted Mary's Wedding. I've suggested Droopy's Nice One can get involved. Skywalker Barry can't be dismissed. He's improved through each round of the Derby, having rushed him back for the competition. Just seems to be going the right way. And Gord Kelly Nestor, well, this fellow has been riding a crest of a wave, despite the fact that he's a veteran. And I don't think there'd be anyone would give out if Gord Kelly Nestor was to make the final. It's not quite as hot a contest, although it's plenty hot enough PL.
Yeah, I mean, that's the thing. If you've got a runner in it, you'll be thinking, well, we've got some kind of squeeze if things go right. And obviously now Vincenzo, even more so. Ballymacfin looks the likely leader on the inside. As I say to you, I thought that Marie's Wedding put in a real solid performance. I happen to think that she is going the right way, and it's a gradual improvement, and that's what I think I like to see throughout a derby as well. I mean, it's amazing what Michael's done with Skywalker Barry. It's just incredible, because I think we were kind of saying, yeah, he's coming towards the end of his career. He's been a good dog, and yet that effort was incredible on last Saturday in the quarters. It was unbelievable to put up such a solid effort. So I don't suppose you can really write him or Nestor off for that matter. And as you say, there were just flashes from the bitch on Droopy's Nice One to say that she may just have been starting to get right. You don't know whether she might have had a little niggle or Mert's been working on or anything like that. Do you know what I mean? It's just... it is intriguing. You fancy that Finn will lead on the inside, and then he'll be tough to beat. But he's got to do it right at the start. And we've seen when he doesn't quite do it right at the start, things happen. All right, there isn't probably a Romeo and Magico in this race particularly, but things can happen. And it's an intriguing little semi. I don't think I'd want to be betting him too short or odds on by any means. So. Yeah, it's quite an intriguing event now that Vincenzo's come out, say.
Even with Vincenzo coming out, he's still only the third fastest runner from the quarterfinals. He's obviously nearly over 2 lengths behind Mary's Wedding at 15 spots. That's 2 lengths in Irish money, and it'll be 16 spots in the UK. But as we all know, our dogs are faster. Mary's Wedding did Mary's Wedding did 29.44, and Droopy's Nice One did 29.54. So she's gone 5 spots faster than Ballymacfin, which in Ireland is 3 parts of a length. In England, it's just over a half a length. Because as you know, our dogs are faster. It just throws it in there. It's worth pointing out when he's going to be 8 to 11, 4 to 5, and you've got there's nothing between them. Gord Kelly Nestor is the slowest of the quarterfinal runners with a 29.69. He's only 10 spots behind Ballymacfin. As it happens, he was in behind Ballymacfin, beaten a length and a half. Skywalker Barry, you were mentioning there, as I alluded to, he's improved through the competition. It's worth pointing out he took a fall. He took a fall not long before the Derby. There was a little bit of a rush. And then in his preparation for the Derby, he charged the traps in his trial for the, I think it was down as a 240 or something like that. It was the trial session where the 5-2-5-yard traps were causing an issue. And I think he charged the traps badly. And it just seems to be that he's finding his feet a little bit. And, perhaps, I don't fancy him. Let's put it out there. But he was 16 to 1 for the heat. He'll be still around 10 or 12 to 1 in the absence of Vincenzo. That there will be 1 or 2 people willing to take a nibble on him, because while he hasn't looked the most natural of starters during this competition, we know that he can start in the past, and just maybe the biggest price 1 or 2 might be interested in taking a nibble. Now, as it is, Ballymacfin will edge off, and Mary's Wedding, when she does get room, will edge in. So he could be the meat and the sandwich at the same time. And for all I'm saying about him, he could have no chance. But listen, just at the price, he's perhaps worth a little nibble. But the one I'll be suggesting is Droopy's Nice One, just purely at the prices. She was around a 6 or 7 to 1 chance. She'll be in around 5 to 1 now for the Heat. And I think that's perfectly fair for a bitch who has 29.32 on her card, it's worth pointing out, and has raced in the very best of company since the start of her career. She's won 10 of her 23 starts. There's just so much to like about her. Dylan, what's your read in the contest?
Just another line on Skywalker Barry. Since he ran in the Derby last year, he'd ran in 9 competitions, including this Derby. He's got to the final of 8 of them. He got knocked out of the English Derby, but I was looking at, because I think one of the first lines I said, the first podcast we had on the Derby, was when you see a dog like Skywalker Barry at 100, you know the calibre of dogs you're in against.
You didn't tip him up, but
I didn't, and that's what's even hurting me more. And I was going back over, because I know I had it written down about.
He tried. He tried there. Didn't he?
Oh, you're an evil man, Fortune.
He tried, though. He did try.
No, look, I hold my hands up, and trust me, if he gets to the final, I'll be kicking myself. But I think he's a type of dog. I don't see him in the Derby. Obviously, it's but you'd love to see him get to a Derby final, because I think he's that good a dog that you'd like to be able to say whenever he does finish, and you look at all the finals he was in, that you could say he reached the Derby final. He's a proper competition dog, and he is improving with each round. And you talk about his trapping, he's even trapping better with each round as well. And I think he plays a big part here, because we talk about Ballymacfin moving off out of 1. The twice he's done it, the dogs on his outside have all missed it. So he's had an absolute freebie. Like last week, 2 and 3 didn't come out, so he was out, and as far as he's aware, there's nothing there. He can move middle, and the same the other night he won out 1 when he beat Hoodoo Brown. I think 3 was actually vacant and 2 missed it. So the 2 nights he's been in 1 and edged out, there's been absolutely nothing there to give him a little nudge or say hold on. Skywalker Barry won't. If he comes away, he ain't going to be moving. If anything, he might be edging in. So I think he plays a big part here. I think he'll give Finn something to think about if they come away level. In terms of a bet in the race, I think Mary's Wedding. I just think she's getting stronger. I can see her turning second. And I think if she turns second and Finn does lead, I think she'll give, their brother and sister as well. So she'll give him plenty to think about. She was coming home in 12.19 last week. Before that, she's 12.35, 12.47. She got held up that night. But that's a big step forward in terms of what she's doing coming home. So I think she's a player.
I agree with you, Dylan. I was the same. I think she's going forward. And now, again, I keep saying this. You come up with these stats, and Ian keeps saying that's what you're here for. And that just goes to show you why she's improving, because she's staying better. She's not. Again, I don't think she's a one-trick pony, but I thought she was. I think I mentioned last week when she did the 27.99. I thought she might just be that kind of early bird that doesn't really stay. But I think that's why I asked Ian how long Keely had her, and I'd actually think that this bitch is going forward gradually, and I don't think she stopped going forward yet.
Yeah, no,
scary.
And like you say, looking at the race, I can just see her turn. I think she'll turn second. If not, if there is a bit of trouble inside, who's to say she mightn't even lead around? But I kind of had it between the two ladies. The only fear I have with Nice One is she's a bit like Born Warrior off the last bend. For me, she just loses a little bit too much ground on some of the corners, particularly the last bend.
Yeah.
And in when it comes down to a fight between 2 dogs, that just swings the way of Mary's Wedding. But I think Droopy's Nice One will qualify.
It'd be interesting. It'd be interesting the bottom if she's not in as much company, shall we say. It's only a 5-runner fair. And let's say the inside duo have scuppered each other's chances. And, let's say she's got ahead of Gord Kelly Nester. If she'd run as wide, if there wasn't that many around her. You know what I mean?
I think she did that in the last week.
Yeah, she did run off,
as wide.
Not quite as wide.
It was the second bend where she had the little wobble. But then I thought she raced the third and fourth better. And that's, I think, probably you saw what I saw there. She just looked that little bit better last week.
Yeah.
So whether, she's just, there might be a little niggle that's alien her, because you were the same. You said she wasn't quite the same bitch last week, but I actually thought I'm the same as you are. I just spotted that little bit of the little bit of a spark came back a little bit.
She absolutely hammered into the home straight up to the escape. Obviously,
the pick up. She flew.
Mary's Wedding and them. And it is worth pointing out that Mert Lahey in recent years has won a juvenile derby with Droopy's Gloss, and he won the Oaks this year with Rahamofo. He really does get a song out of these ladies. He's turning into a bit of an expert. He's always been a brilliant trainer, and certainly in the last 2 or 3 years, he's only been second to Graham Holland in terms of numbers. But especially with the females, he's absolutely flown over the last 2 or 3 years, and that's worth keeping in mind as we get down to the business end. When you're trying to just grasp onto something, it's something that can be grasped onto, because he has a proven record in top class company with top class ladies, and she's certainly that. Gentlemen, so you're suggesting Mary's Wedding in around a 3-1 mark, Dylan. That's your prediction?
Yeah, I'd be actually sweet enough on her now, to be honest. I think the bottom bitch will qualify. I was only going through it earlier. I actually think there'll be 3 bitches in the final, which is, we talked last year about Susie and Sally and the caliber of bitches around, and I think this year we said, well, perhaps it's not as strong, but I think there's every chance you're going to have 3 bitches in the final. I'd be sweet enough on Mary's Wedding. I think it'll be probably 3-1-6, 3-6-1, something like that.
The last time there was 3 bitches in the final. Now, bear with me. Like this is old school. Like that's scribble on a paper sort of stuff. I think I did that 2 years ago, or maybe a year ago. The last time there was 3 bitches in the final of the Irish Derby was in, I'm gonna say 2000. No, it wasn't 2000. It was 99. The springtime. Didn't the springtime win 99 or 2000? There's a question for you. I think she was 99 because it was last century. So there hasn't been 3 bitches in the final in a long time, if ever. There was 2 bitches in the final in 99 springtime in High Dingle, and in 98 Cool Panther and Tina Marina. We also had in 2016 Holy Cross Leah, Siderian Pearl. 1990 the other toss who won it in Pets Echo was second, and 85 Jackie Come Home and Liz Popple's son Story. So yeah, it can be done, but we've never had 3 in the final. We, of course, had 2 in the final last year. They finished first and second. So, Mary's Wedding, your selection for the contest. PL, is there any sort of angle, any price angle here? Is anything you're going to recommend?
As I say to you, I wouldn't want to be betting Finn too short a price. I think I'd agree with Dylan. I think I'll probably just side with Marie's Wedding, seeing as I've been singing the praises, and I just think she's going the right way. Whereas, Finn, it was a workmanlike performance last week. It wasn't sparkling by any means, but whereas I think with what you've seen, Marie's Wedding was the one I think is going forward. So I think I'll stick with her at the prices.
Yeah. Droopy's nice one for me. You won't be surprised. In and around the 5-1 mark. I wouldn't be taking any shorter than 5-1. I think I'd want 5-1 to my money, but I think she can run a big race on the outside. For John Coleman and Mert Lahey, a daughter of what's his name? Oh, that's right, Droopy Sydney. Gentlemen, give me your 3 qualifiers, please, Dylan.
3-1-6.
PL.
I'll agree with Dylan.
Yeah. I'm just
he agrees.
Worried.
He just doesn't want to say it.
I'm just a bit worried that Mary's Wedding won't clear the inside duo. I'm going to go 6-1-5. 6-1-5. I just think there's a small chance that Gord Kelly Nestor he'll appreciate a bit of room up the middle, no question about it. He could certainly outrun his price, but as I've said, Droopy's nice.
The vacant trap's going to help him in, isn't it? That's the thing.
Big time, big time. I thought Vincenzo was a certain qualifier. I was going to be tipping him up to win the heat, I'll be honest. And in his absence, it's so disappointing. But listen, the very best of luck to the remaining 5 sets of connections. It would have been great to see Peter, Cheryl Sutcliffe and Pat Guilfoyle with a potential finalist, but they still have a chance. They have Explosive Boy in the other heat, so we won't cry for them just yet. They may well be in the Derby final. Gentlemen, that's it. This is our second to last podcast. We'll be back next week to discuss the final 6 in the Boyle Sports Irish Greyhound Derby. It's been a truly wonderful competition. Don't forget, all the prices for the night's action will be on Matchbook Betting Exchange. All the anti-post prices are there. You can watch it live on Racing Post Television. You can watch it, the 2 big races, the 2 semi-finals live on Virgin Media too. It'll also be streamed live with ourselves here on Matchbook. But that's it, gentlemen. We'll be talking about the final 6 next week. PL, just I suppose to sign off in a nice way, what will win the Derby?
I'm still going to stick with Hoffa.
Dylan?
unfortunately, this is where I say Vincenzo, but that's no longer. So yeah, I'm going to have to go to the second best, which is Hoffa.
Hoffa. Do you know what? I wouldn't be happy. I'll be happy to make it a hat trick of Hoffas, and I'll be very happy if we're all right, gentlemen. I can promise you that. I'd settle for Kokoro either. Now, let it be said, she's a bit of a star. But that's it from us this afternoon, should I say, on Matchbook Betting Exchange. Again, don't forget that sign-up offer, £30 back is a free bet if your first bet is a loser, and the bonus code is Insights30. But that's it from myself, the Lily-White assassin Dylan Brennan, and the master Paul Lawrence. Best of luck to each and every connection with a dog in the Derby. Hopefully your dreams come true and you make it to the final. But that's it from us this morning. Good luck and God bless.